All right. Yeah. All right, welcome everybody. It's Monday the 18th. Yeah, I had to think about that for a second. Second meeting of the month, Miami Township Board of Trustees. Two trustees, fire chief, road administrator, fiscal officer. We're all here, ready to go. Entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of March 4th, 2018.
I so move.
Mr. Hollister moves, I will second. Any further discussion regarding those minutes? I saw no changes of them, they look just fine. Hearing no further discussion, may we vote please?
Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
Mr. Mutcher?
Yes. I entertain a motion to approve payment of bills of $45,988.89. Broken down, general fund, $4,634.58. Fire fund, $24,280.69. Cemetery fund, $4,114.80. EMS billing, $6,525.42. Road and bridge, $4,888.64. And capital project, $1,544.76. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second?
All right, any further discussion regarding payment of those accounts? Hearing none, may we vote please?
Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
Mr. Mutcher?
Yes.
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
All right, we have a new addition to the board. A most recent addition to the board. Well, that's good. All right, we'll let him get organized as we go through correspondence and then move along to normal stuff. So, we received an email regarding starting our 501c3, and that refers to the establishment of the local CDC, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit further in old news. OTA legislative alert for March 15th. 2019 CareWorks Comp Risk Management Cost Control Seminar announcement, and a CareWorks Comp new claim notification, Department of Commerce Control notice, which does apply but doesn't apply to us because we have no establishments in Township. Green County District Advisory Council meeting minutes for 2018. MSA 3-7 meeting minutes. That's actually the
March
phone,
7th?
that's, yeah, but that's the phone meeting,
Phone
conference call.
conference call, you change that?
Yes, please, because we didn't have a special meeting, so it might be a little confusing.
Okay, sure.
Letter from Bath Township resident about mutual aid, Otarma's quarterly newsletter, Yellow Springs Tree Committee newsletter 2019, MVRPC's March 7th meeting materials and executive director's update newsletter, and the fund status, revenue status, and appropriation status for March 18th. That would be today. Are there any further correspondences in or out? Hearing none, we will move along. We will move along to the fire department.
Alrighty. Since the last board meeting, we've had 31 EMS incidents, 11 fire incidents, and 3 fire safety activities.
31 sounds like a pretty good number.
It's a good clip.
Yeah,
We've been moving along pretty well. The Bath Township tanker has an air leak. So, it's awaiting parts, and they should be in this week. They will get them in, and then it should be in service next week.
Good.
We had one member had a workers' compensation claim last week. Well, that's ongoing, but he should be cleared to return to full duty by Wednesday as a follow-up with occupational health. So he injured his finger. Nothing too horrific, thank goodness. On the good side, one of our crews early Sunday morning transported a resident from Cornerstone Drive in Bath Township who was complaining of chest pains to Soin. It was like 3:30 in the morning. While en route to the hospital, the patient went into cardiac arrest. The crew started CPR, defibrillated him once, and as Joe was trying to place the tube down his throat to help him breathe, he woke up. So, which is not a very common outcome. The patient was admitted, had an emergency heart cath at Soin that morning, was admitted to their ICU, and was moved to a regular room today. They are expecting to make a full recovery, which is outstanding for him. And the crew did an amazing job, because that's not, unfortunately, the way it usually works. So they did a really good job, and we're gonna set up a time to recognize them. I'll be giving them a commendation. The Caring Health Network also wants to recognize them, because it's a program they do as well when these things happen, so. So there's Joe Menudo, Ryan Evans, Nick Miller-Jacobson, Ryan Schroeder, and then I just found out also TJ Fries and Casey Brewer were all on the call, so.
Who's the last person? Kate?
Casey Brewer.
How in the world did you get everybody up at?
They were all here,
at what-
honestly.
What time was it?
3-something in the morning. I mean, well, Joe and Ryan were on
Yeah.
duty. And Ryan Schroeder was here because he wasn't eating, so he was hanging out. Casey was here because he was wherever Casey was. TJ was here. It was just a packed night. And then Nick came from home. So,
Wow.
yeah, and they were out the door in 2.5 minutes. So,
You can't say we don't have a good response.
yeah, that night we were packed. That one worked out pretty well. So, oh, and
Good for them.
yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice to hear, and it was nice to hear back from Christy of Soaring so quickly. That it was good news, because oftentimes, unfortunately, it's not. So. I did want to point out something. In the correspondence, there was the letter from a Bath Township resident regarding mutual aid, which was also brought up at a Bath Township meeting recently, which claimed that in the month of January, when we had second or overlapping EMS calls, so 2 coming in pretty much at the same time, 62% of the time, those calls went to mutual aid. We had to call someone to take care of the call for us. One of the funny things about data is that one of the things I've learned is that you can cherry pick and make things sound however you want it to sound. The reality, however, number one, we're a small department and we may not always be able to handle second calls.
How many second calls were there in January?
We had 7.
7?
7 overlapping calls during January.
Well, one principle in statistics is you don't use percentages when you're talking about less than 100. You use fractions.
Yeah, well, one principle is also you have to give supporting data, which I did not. So 2 of those on January 7th, January 12th, we handled. Both medics got out, handled them without a problem. But then when you start looking, some of these, for again, a small department, basically it's maybe 43% of the time we would call mutual aid if I'm being really generous.
But 43 would mean how many out of how many?
That would be 3 out of 7. 3 times out of 7 we had to call mutual aid. I'm assuming one of them that they're counting, because this was through a public records request that I had to provide this data. January 12th, Houston was called for a second call, was met on scene by me, was the last man standing. We were already out in a motor vehicle crash with an engine and an ambulance and 6 people out there, so that was pretty much everyone we have. On the 20th, Houston was requested for a third medic call. A third call, met on scene again by me. We were on a medic call with 2 people and a hazmat incident with the engine with 2 people at the same time, 2 different calls going on. And then on the 30th, Houston was requested for a second call, which was met on scene by me and a firefighter. Houston, we were already on another call at that time. So there's really only 3, because another one they're counting. Houston was called for a second call at Friends Care while we were actually at Friends, taking one patient out. And they said, oh, hey, we're calling you again because we have another patient. It was right at shift change around 7 p.m. So we just said, well, no one's going to show, so we called Houston, and then Jeremy was coming on duty that night, so he brought the second ambulance. But Houston got there at the same time, and I felt bad that we got out of bed, not out of bed, but out of their home, and asked if you guys want to take it, go right ahead. So we could have taken it, but we let them do it. So yeah, I mean, being generous, it's 3 out of 7 times we gave it to mutual aid. But
of those 3, or on those 3 calls, was the response time appropriate to the call, and did they have ALS or BLS or whatever was necessary? I mean, did they have?
oh yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, the initial ambulance, call was handled without a problem by us with ALS.
No,
crews.
the mutual aid call.
Mutual aid calls. Yeah, I mean, that Houston got there relatively quickly.
Uh-huh.
I think all the calls were actually during their staff times at Houston, because they staff from 6 AM to 6 PM.
Mhm.
Except for that one at Friends, which was at 7 o'clock. So I mean, they got there relatively quickly, but someone was on the scene within minutes to do me.
Mhm.
Excuse me, start care and wait for them, so.
Were they all removals?
They were all transports, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So what was the complaint?
It was a complaint geared towards you gentlemen, I believe, questioning why you thought it was a good idea to take on a contract for other territory when we can't even handle our second calls. So,
Well, they were alleging that, what was it, 62%
62, and
of those calls
I think
were-
that's a stretch, certainly, that's a stretch.
Well, you can make the point regardless of, if there's one duplicate,
Mhm.
you could. So they're saying if we were to, we should have the ability to do 2 calls before we take on another space, another
Apparently,
territory.
yeah. And I mean, there are people who were upset at a Bath Township meeting. There was a crash at 235 in Byron Road on a Saturday, I think it was the 2nd of March. During the daytime, and our medic crew was transporting a patient from Friends Care to the hospital when the call came in. So because our medic was already on a call, our crash response is 2 ambulances and a fire engine. So we pulled up our second ambulance, Enid, and our fire engine. So when our dispatcher called Houston, the Houston dispatcher who dispatches both Enid and Houston,
Mhm.
our dispatcher didn't tell them who we wanted. So she just assumed that Enid, Miami Township always asks for Houston. And sent Houston, which took 20 minutes for them to get there. It's kind of a haul. It turned out, luckily, when the patient got herself out of the car, she was arrested later at the scene for being DUI. So we made that change. I've talked to Mindy about making sure the dispatchers ask for the right people, and we've made changes to the run cards for that part of Bath Township to kind of realign and make sure that people get there faster when we're not available. But our ambulance crew actually upgraded their transport, went license sirens to green with a patient, dropped her off really quickly, and came back for the call. So, and actually got to where Houston was going there. So, there's some people who are just upset that we're covering them. I don't think they're going to win everybody over. But so far, neither I or the Bath Township Board have received any complaints from people we've actually had to
Mhm.
care for. So, which is really the measure of the service that we provide.
I thought we were restructuring our personnel with the additional financial assistance of Bath Township to hopefully get to the point where we will be able to accommodate 2 ambulances
Yes.
at all times.
Yeah, that's the goal, and on a couple of these, we had enough people for that, but if they were already out in the fire engine on their call, they can't come back and take the ambulance.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, because trying to find people to work is really difficult at this point, just because everyone's looking for part-time staff at the same time. But we're still plugging along. Got another guy starting, hopefully April 1st, so.
Well, for example, on the commendation call, of the 6 people you had, I mean, were all 6 needed for that transport?
No, and 2 didn't transport, 2 stayed back after they assisted on the scene, so.
But there was obviously no one here at the station,
During that call, correct.
so if another call had come in.
Right, then it would have gone mutual aid.
Mhm.
Which, is a standard procedure even for a, 4-station, full-time fire department. I'm not sure, I think the myth that some people follow is that everyone's available all the time. That's just not the way it works. Dayton Fire Department calls mutual aid from Huber Heights and Riverside all the time. And, unless you're the size of New York City, there are gonna be times where you're just not able to fulfill every call request because it's just the way it is. Because staffing is what it is and calls come in when they do. Our goal here is to be able to make sure, obviously, we handle all the first calls and as many of the second calls as we can. And we seem to be doing that. And it'll only get better as we hopefully move towards optimal staffing.
So how much short are we of the optimal staffing?
We're still significantly short. I mean, we're still down one 24-hour position and five of six 12-hour positions.
And that's what we budgeted for.
Yeah, that's what's budgeted for.
But even if they were fully staffed, everyone would go to an initial call.
It depends on what the dispatch calls for. I mean, for instance, the one with accommodation, since it came in as a chest pain, the dispatchers made that a more serious call, a major medical response. So it got the response of both the ambulance and the rescue truck to assist. Most of the calls are just an ambulance only, so usually it's just a two-person crew that goes on the ambulance.
But if there's 6 people here, then 4 people stay back?
In theory, yeah, if it was just a regular run-of-the-mill ambulance.
Okay, I guess I just misunderstood that, saying, you know, everyone would jump in and go.
Yeah, no.
On every call,
No,
if they're here.
right, we don't,
I'm not saying bring them in from outside,
right,
but.
no, if they're here, you know, the guys, all 3 shift leads, Nate, Joe, and Alex, are very good about that, you know, we send the people who need to go, not everybody.
Now, with the run where you received the commendation, did 4 people go on that one?
4 ended up transporting,
Okay,
a driver and then 3 back.
okay, because that's what I understood.
Yeah.
Was that there were 6 people and
Yeah.
that
2 assisted.
stayed behind.
Yeah.
And so a moment ago, you said we're short of our goal, 1 full-time and 5 part-time.
Well, it's one, they're all part-time positions, but one is a 24-hour position every 6 days, and the other are 12-hour positions every 6 days.
One 24-hour and 5 12-hour.
Yep. Well, we're getting there.
Okay, anything else?
No. I mean, the only thing I had in there is that, if you notice in the Visa bill, Vistaprint mistakenly charged us sales tax, but I talked to them, and they're gonna, credit that back to us. They're in Canada, so I guess they just got confused about what taxes they. Crazy Canadians, so. And then, oh, last but not least, just a reminder, I'll be gone tomorrow through next Wednesday.
Okay,
There you go.
stay off those max states.
Try.
You've been grounded. You're all grounded.
I don't know, ball up.
Come on, us.
Well, okay, well,
I don't know,
in the United States they
maybe it was
are.
flying WOW airline, Icelandic Air or somebody.
But United,
Lithuania.
yeah, that's a real airline, thank God.
Okay,
That's it.
All right,
Unless anyone
thank you.
else has anything for me?
Is he gonna try to burn one?
Oh, yeah, good thinking. Depending on weather and timing, we're gonna try and get some burning done tomorrow. Morstein, Small Prairie, and then.
Natural.
Thank you, natural
Burial
burial.
area.
All I could think of was death ground, but that's the whole place.
so I bought new tubs, 3 more anyway, so,
There, that wants it.
yeah.
So yeah, I'll try and get them tomorrow night, during training, and if not, then we'll just schedule it on the
Mhm.
next couple of weeks, before we return spring, but,
Think
I went out and
it's,
looked
think
at
it's
more-
dry now?
hopefully by tomorrow.
I
Yeah.
think it will be tomorrow.
It should
Must
be,
another
because-
day like
Yeah,
today.
as long as it's like today, and, because we originally scheduled Morris Bean for today, but because of the snow and rain yesterday, we put it off. So as long as it's not too windy, there's enough people showing,
Yeah.
all the fun factors, but,
Weather permitting.
yeah, Morris Bean looked like it was good to go, I mean, it's still brown, I assume the natural barrier is the
Yeah,
same.
it would burn.
Okay. Fantastic, so yeah, they should get that done, if not, I'll get it scheduled ASAP, so.
Okay, great.
Alrighty. You need me for anything else?
No, I just wanted to go over where we are.
Oh, right, yeah, the fire station.
With the fire station. We had another conference call last Wednesday, and it was just to it's a continuation of, things, but, and I distributed, I think everybody's seen the distribution of the results of it, the minutes from it, and the new, direction of the construction manager and the potential, request for qualifications that will go out for that. There's another call scheduled for Wednesday. I've decided to go down to Cincinnati to be at MSA for that. I just feel like, it's necessary to sit on these people a little bit more than, in the past. Plus, I want to review some data that hopefully they have for, what the bid, estimates called out and what the general contractors that over the past three bids, have bid portions of the package and see, where the, where they line up and where they don't. There's also some other strategy questions that I have to see whether it's worth pursuing. Get into all these potential things that, probably aren't going to, pan out, but, so anyway, that's gonna happen. That's not all.
Yeah, I won't be here for that.
Ashley was gonna come up, but. Or not come up, come in like he did last week, or 2 weeks ago. So, that's where we are with that. Anything? Done?
Well, I have two questions. One is, maybe you're clear, but I'm not, as to this notion of shifting towards, where we, in effect, act as our own contractor.
No.
That hasn't happened.
No. We would potentially contract with somebody who would be acting as our contractor.
That's what I meant.
Mhm.
So that, how far are we on that?
Still in the discussion stage. One of the things is, we're not sure where that would fall financially, and MSA has two construction manager organizations that they're close enough, they feel close enough with, that they want to get some preliminary numbers from them to see whether this is a logical direction to take. Because if they talk to them and those people say, well, based on what we've seen, this is a $5.75 million job. And so, there's no sense going down that road until we hit that old value engineering button, and start knocking off sleeping quarters and
Has there been,
rooms and.
one of the variables is the groundwork. It might turn out to be less expensive than some of the estimates. If we just did it and then bid the whole job after, by not we doing it, but contracted for just that piece. So you've got the ground compacted to specifications, and that variable would be eliminated.
That was brought up, it was batted around a little bit. There really wasn't a legitimately strong 100% reason to do it, as opposed to not doing it. There was, well, if you do it, then the plan is, the footprint is set, and you can't change it if you had to down the road.
You could shrink it, but you couldn't.
Well, no, you really couldn't shrink it, because what you're doing is you're putting these piers in places where, maybe they could, obviously I don't know.
Okay, I get your point.
And then the other
Fair
one,
point.
that one, and, you know, if a contractor comes in and the groundwork's already done, the building's put down there, then it starts to crack or whatever.
Responsibility.
Yeah, then
Who's liable?
who's liable? You know, the geopier guys go, hell, I don't know what kind of equipment they ran over our geopiers, putting in the pad and, you know, back and forth that way too. So, I know what you're saying, that is a little bit of a potential savings, also is a little bit of a risk. I mean, what was that estimated at? Do you remember, 150 for that, 150,000 for that? So if it comes in, I mean, the most recent one, I don't think I got that right in front of me. So the most so if, you know, if they did it and it saved us 50, that is 50, but was it worth the 50? I don't know. I mean, it's not gonna save us 100, it's not gonna save us, you know, substantially in the smaller amounts. I can run that by them again, just to see how strong.
You say it's not gonna be in the hundreds?
Well, they're not gonna, if it's estimated to cost 150, it's not gonna save us 100.
Okay, so I thought that,
If it's done.
I thought there were some subcontract bids that were much higher.
Well, but the first time
Mhm.
when we went down there, between the first and the second bid, it was all over the map. I mean, they originally estimated at 75,000, and then they thought it was gonna be 700,000.
Right.
And then they didn't know who was doing it, and that was
And that's when we didn't put in piers as an option.
right, that was trucking out 800,000 cubic yards of dirt and then bringing it all, and there's still some of that, but the geopiers isn't supposedly a less expensive way to go, and it was an engineered option. It wasn't just, well, let's just try this. You know, Bowser Mortar, the people that we contracted with to do the site work, or the site engineering, I guess it were, you know, they had that all engineered, and the compaction rate and what was necessary and how many piers and where they had to go. I don't know if you've seen those, but there's a big booklet of the work for that. And, you know, it does have to be inspected when it's finished and all, but Bowser Moore's not gonna guarantee it if somebody else does it, and the other contractor's not gonna guarantee it if they don't do it. And so, I don't know.
Okay. And the other question, I wasn't part of the original planning. I did campaign for the levy, but wasn't part of the levy proposal. But I noted that Ashley from USDA brought up in that call, again, the engineered steel building, and you dismissed that saying the trustees are committed to a building whose appearance will fit into this neighborhood, or not exactly your words. And I just think we should acknowledge that physically, there could be a fire station of a different, the floor plan would be the same, but the structure assumptions would be, and appearance would be different, but dramatically cheaper.
Well, everything's on the table, but, you know, when you're going down that road, you wanna stay as close to what the voting public, you know, voted for. So I don't think that would be the very first thing that we would decide that, okay, well, we'll just go ahead and change the whole cladding to corrugated metal to save us the money and, you know,
Mike,
keep the light monitors or whatever. Yes, sir.
my observation is that we don't know if it would be dramatically cheaper, with the keyword being dramatic. I don't know if it would be any cheaper.
I think theoretically, if we went with a, whatever they call it, pre-engineered steel structure, similar to what Houston has, and the price savings, as Ashley points out on a regular basis, would be substantial. But you also lose building life substantially, what we found from talking to other people who've done that. And as I pointed out, and I think Ashley's not mad at me, but,
Well,
tough luck. You know, we campaigned on something, people voted for something, and, I mean, yeah, if it boils down to it, and you gotta do it, you gotta do it, but I'm sure the neighbors who are already not happy about an apartment building going in
Right.
would be really happy about a garage,
Really
basically.
unhappy.
There, especially since we, I mean, talking points included, we promise you this will be nice. And
now,
it's a building that'll last 50+ years, so.
did we talk about this on the conference call? We must have, but there's some discussion about potentially saving money by doing some pre-engineered structural work for the interior.
Right.
You know, the walls and have them done off-site and then brought in and placed, you know,
Yeah, there was,
after the
that was on this last
envelope.
conference call, they said, I think that came up when they were talking to one of the contractors.
Mhm, yeah, that's
Turner
right.
or one of
Yeah.
those, who said, oh, you could definitely still have a really nice looking building, but pre-engineer certain portions,
Mhm,
even in concrete.
mhm.
It sounded like not just metal, but you could do it like the bay,
Yeah,
and then everything else would be the stick, whatever is still, but that would save you a bunch of money. And then you can clad it however you want it to clad it.
Mhm.
I mean, I think the important thing is whatever we do is, I mean, if it ends up with some pre-engineering, it should, we wanna make sure it's steel and not sticks. Cause
Yeah.
I've seen what's happening with like a 4-year-old facility in the next county that was built that way.
By sticks, you mean wood.
Wood. They already have like rotting going on in the bays and everything, so. You know, and they're pretty clear, whether that's like, it's Turner or one of those, the other, there's two contractors they kept talking about.
Mhm.
Um,
those were construction managers.
Right.
Turner.
Yeah, Turner and, I can't remember the other one.
I don't either.
But they could, they thought that you could save money by doing that and still make it look nice.
Mhm.
And I don't know who the other company is, but Turner's a big company. I've
Yeah.
dealt with them before on different things, so.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens, I guess.
I guess. Anything else about the new firehouse? Okay, we'll move along. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you very much.
Hope the surgery comes out well.
I hope so too.
When is
Going
the
to
surgery,
Afghanistan?
tomorrow?
Yeah, no, Afghanistan. Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
Thursday. Not Wednesday. I got a second email, so if you need me, just yell.
Okay.
Scream.
Daniel, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, since our last meeting, we've had a burial and ashes. We're gonna have another one this Saturday down here at Twin Forest.
Wait, the burial and ashes were in Clifton?
Nope, they were in Glen Forest,
Okay.
and we'll have another Saturday in Glen Forest. Brandon will take care of that.
Brandon will?
He was off last week because he had family things. So we could have this one if you wanted, that's not sure.
Is it full or?
His ashes,
Mhm.
got my building, break, somebody gonna break.
Mhm.
Your man Roger was in there too. Picking up leaves.
That's good, we could've.
Is
just-
it October again?
Yeah, I had to meet with Dodge down there, actually, right after I talked to you, they called, wanted to know placement where the stones went. And he was there, so I talked to him. They were gonna try to pick up some leaves today. I knew he'd get to it, just a matter of time.
That doesn't solve the issue that there's been leaves since October.
Yeah, pretty much he couldn't get in there
Okay.
at times, but there were some days I think he could have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Catholic cemetery doesn't,
Yeah, for
haven't
some
seen,
reason.
haven't seen a leaf there
For
since
some reason,
fall.
yeah. But anyway, he's,
Does he serve that?
Mhm.
yeah. He's a regular.
All right, well, now my blood pressure's high enough.
It should be a little lower these days, they're doing something. And I got some graves to top off sometime this week.
Mhm.
If the weather holds, we should be able to get some dirt and get it when we get it topped off. About 6 up here,
Yeah.
a couple of cooking. It's on the list for this week. And, that's about it for that.
Okay.
Anything?
your memory like a steel trap. In the natural burial, right offhand, can you think of anybody who's in 133 and 156?
156 is that the 19-year-old gentleman? 156, that's up close to the curb, down by the woods. On the south side, 156 would come around, the 160 here, that one sold, 159 sold, 156.
Making me nervous that there is no
The
record.
young gentleman that was 19,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's where he is. I can't think of the name. It should be recorded. It should be it. It's the one where Near showed up with a tent, because they wanted to set up, which was Atkins out in.
But you know it's 156?
It's 156.
Okay.
Or is it recorded differently?
It's doesn't have a name on it. It says it's occupied. But
I
doesn't
know I
have a
get
name.
that. I'll find that out, because it was a young gentleman. I remember the thing. I'll find out. I know I wrote it down, I'm pretty sure I recorded it. Well, I'm not recorded it. It wasn't on one of my time sheets.
Wouldn't know the date. I mean, I can,
It was,
if I have to, I'll go back to them all.
it
But
was 17,
was it 17?
Oh, way back then.
way back.
Mm.
I'll just I'll check that out.
And 133?
Is no one, or is 133, is that Neil Dawson? And 132 is
His wife.
Deanna. She bought 132. Neil Dawson is in 133.
Maybe we do have steel trap.
Okay.
Because there's stone, actually they have stones, they're sitting there by the entrance. She's already bought stones
Oh, really?
and markers. They're sitting there by the entrance, I need to take them back and place them. I'll do that.
Not till after it's burnt.
That's right. Once it's done, I'll place them. So. Oh, yeah, there, it was a young gentleman. I'll find it.
Okay. You will be, in a week, you'll be computer active for searching records.
I heard something about that, yeah, possibly. Cool. New unit?
If it works out the way I want it to, you'll be able to just do one click with your mouse on the screen, and it will come up, and then there'll be a box that says search, and you put in
What's
whatever.
in Glen Forest, natural, whatever, we're all.
Well, that will be for who would own a grave. You put in,
Okay,
you know, Silliman and all the Silliman who owns
like you do
graves.
here now, when you look something up for it's.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a different method, but it will be easier to do. You won't have to enter passwords, or you won't have to hook into this computer, any of that. It was what I was trying to get when I was up there last, I guess it was Friday. I was trying to get that old computer to load that information up, but
And it
it just
wouldn't do it.
wouldn't do it by the time we got there. And then, as we talked about, if you needed burials, you would just look on the website, on the burial search.
See who's there.
Yeah. If you were looking for Mrs. Duncan,
Mhm.
see where she's buried, it'll come up on the website, and you'll have access to that. So
Okay, cool.
it should be it's about as easy as we can make it.
Okay. Well, you give me a quick run through once it's all there, we can,
Oh, yeah.
cool.
Anything else for cemetery purposes this evening, Don? Nope. Mark? Well, what's the road department
Oh,
up to?
we got a couple potholes.
Couple?
Like you film one day and it show up the next. Amazing. So I'm getting some more. I had to start to do that today, but I got sidetracked on other things. So as soon as we take care of it.
Okay, you wanna tell us about your sidetrack?
I went and looked at a Bobcat today. Phone call was that they had one in our price range. And pretty much everything we wanted. We had to sacrifice something, but in talking to him, it's not much of a sacrifice, actually more beneficial for us.
You don't get.
Instead of
air
having a
conditioning, right?
vertical, because he said there's too much pressure on there, more pivot points. So when you're pushing or something, he said it is beneficial, but it has its downfalls. And I've never had anybody tell me that before. You know, he went through it pretty good with me today.
You know?
I'm not following.
Well, I was curious to get a vertical lift, which our Bobcats are radius lift, so it comes back over you because they're fixed pivot points. On a vertical, it comes up because these pivot forward as it comes up. Well, there's more pivot points, cause more damage, you know, pins can wear out quicker. But this gentleman has one that's radius lift like ours, but it does have a leveling unit on it.
Oh, it
So
does?
when you lift the bucket, it'll go up level now. You know how you have to do that as you're,
Yeah, I
it'll do it
learned
for
that.
you.
You
This
don't
will
do it too many times, you get
Yeah.
all that salt poured on your
dump it
head.
all back on the top of you. But this has a self-leveler on it, you just push the button. That's nice.
Mhm.
It's a nice machine, it's a 2018 with
Yeah.
400 hours on it.
Which is not very many.
Not very many.
Bobcat land.
According to the others were 1,100 and 900 hours on the other
Yeah.
two.
And so how much is it?
He's at 32, but he's given us 8 for our trade-in, for what we're trading in. So it takes us down to 24.9,
Yeah, which is
which
exactly
is
where we wanted to be.
where you wanted to be.
Mhm.
Now, the only thing we need the combination bucket, which won't come with this, that would be an additional whatever, and I don't know the price of that yet. But we are getting a straight bucket, which we wouldn't have got through Tim. We would have had to purchase
Mhm.
it. So
We already authorized this, right?
he's going for the,
Not
not yet.
specifically.
Okay.
He's
We always
gonna,
look.
he's gonna find us a combo bucket. I said, if he's a used one, that's okay, as long as it's in good shape. But he's gonna try to get us a new one.
Mhm.
Cause the machine's wider. So we're only gonna keep our forks in the blade
Mhm.
because they're wide enough.
Mhm.
But then we'll get rid of everything else. And the combination bucket would be enough, but he's throwing in a straight bucket for free, basically. Can't turn it.
Free.
Well, you know what I mean. We wouldn't have got that through the other
All
Bob.
right.
So, and it'll be serviced, they'll send it to Troy, and it'll be fully serviced and checked out. And it probably still has somewhat of a warranty on it. Seems
The
as-
original manufacturer as opposed
Mhm.
to the equipment seller. Okay, so is this a piece of equipment that you would be willing to pull the trigger on tonight?
Sure.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
I assume what you mean is to purchase this.
Correct.
Not pull the trigger.
That's a,
Yeah,
that's,
not to kill
I'll
him.
second the motion
Okay.
to purchase this.
okay. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, maybe vote please.
Mr. Hollister,
Yes.
Mr. Crockett,
Yes.
Mr. Mutcher,
Yes.
And this will be all right for the combination bucket purchase too on
Uh-huh.
top of it?
Yeah.
Great.
So, Margaret, you want that for the particulars of the financing or whatever you want to
well,
put on
I'll
that?
just wait till they present an invoice and then I'll cut a check.
Right.
Well, I meant for the motion.
Oh, sure.
Do we need to contact him and get something else, or just contact him and say, hey, it's a go whenever?
Yeah,
Okay,
just, you know,
Do it.
okay. Thank you,
Merry Christmas.
yes, thank you very much. It'll be
Now we all
beneficial.
have a toy.
we do?
It's not my-
Well, I like the idea that it's only got 200 hours on
400,
400.
but,
400.
but still, it's, you know,
400 hours? I can't believe the thing's got 400 hours on it.
it'll run, you know, the attachments, I talked to you about that, it'll run everything we would need to run. So,
Mhm.
it's a pretty nice machine.
So if you,
I don't change my vote, but I had also heard 200.
Yeah,
I wrote
Did I
down
say
400. I wrote down
It
400.
says 2, but it's 400 hours.
the fiscal officer wrote 400, so that's.
I was sitting right next to him. I
Mark
must
and
I
I
must have heard
just
that.
have different ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheap years.
How much of your equipment have you serviced?
That mower,
Okay.
but it's done, so.
Is it
You could have
E30?
moved it, I noticed you were out there, you could have moved it out, you know.
That's all right. The E35 need to be serviced?
It will be,
Uh-huh.
it will be. I did not get filters for that, but I will. I forgot about it.
And
I'll admit it.
you haven't changed the oil in the truck yet, I've noticed, at least unless
Baby,
you.
baby step.
Yeah, you're right, a baby step.
No, I'll take care of that too.
There's 24 hours in a day, as somebody used
Yeah.
to say.
I'll
Maybe,
figure it out.
maybe Brandon and his dad will come down and do it.
Yeah. Well, that was a weekend.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out. Yeah, I'll get it finished. I did such a small list.
when's Connor's spring break?
Next week.
Is it?
Need him?
Um,
Could I use him?
sure.
Just a couple days maybe?
I'd like to get some more of those markers out of the cemetery before Roger starts mowing, because then, you know, I put the orange flags in the holes where I
Where they
take the
go.
markers out. Yeah, and I've always worried that, you know, he's just gonna run over them, you know, and then they'll be gone, then I won't know where to put them back, but, if we can knock those out,
Sure.
you know, another 50 of them, and if Connor could help me
Sure.
or do it.
Yeah, he's out. I could get him, I could have him a couple days.
Mhm.
Work,
All right,
get him out of the house.
okay, so let's
Sure.
plan on doing that for a while.
Sure.
Okay.
He'll be okay with it. Okay.
That's the veteran markers.
Mm-hmm. I concluded that.
Okay.
The Xenia Foundry generously offered to do more.
Really? I didn't think they were gonna do it.
I didn't either.
All of a sudden. Okay.
Guess it pays to know somebody. And I didn't even ask for it.
Okay. I'm gonna try to get that ditch cleaned out on Canada Road this week. Needs to be done, it's back in water, up in water. Weather holds it, I could do it in a day.
Yeah, I saw that. That'd be good if you could get that.
Yeah, that's on my list for this week, so I'll see what I can do. And Brandon was off today, he had a dentist appointment, so probably work the rest of the week. I think
Is
so.
he making progress on that?
Yeah,
Good.
today should be the day, I hope.
Yeah. Great. Good for him.
And that's all I have.
All right, anything else for the road man? No, wait a minute, road
Mm-hmm.
administrator.
Administrator.
Slipping into my old ways. Hearing none, maybe move along to the fiscal officer. Yes, we may.
Okay, so, it's time to adopt our permanent appropriations, but I wanted to, okay. I pulled a muscle every once in a while, it knocks me sideways. I had to do a little tweaking, partially due to the fact that there were some appropriations that we, and it's generally in the general fund, but
Generally, they are.
yes, and it's, you know, we'd already spent some monies in the general fund, and the appropriations that we were looking at, weren't enough.
Well, yeah, because they were reviewed in January or
Right,
February.
right, you know, then we paid for our property insurance and,
Uh-huh.
just a little bit of this and that, so, you know, in all fairness, I wanted to let you know what I did do. In auditing services, we had $2,000 appropriated there, but we won't be audited this year, so I removed that.
Mhm, mhm.
What page am I looking at?
The front page, the first page of,
Appropriations.
yeah, appropriations, the general
Keep
fund,
going.
first page.
It's a long way to
Okay.
go, there we go.
So, what you probably have there, it says $2,000 for tax collection fees, and, I removed that completely. I mean, that was for auditing service. For tax collection fees, I added an extra $200, just because they're higher than what we normally appropriate, because, we're getting a little more money.
Mhm.
Anyway, then go down,
Enough, I'm still not, oh, final appropriation column, okay.
yeah, sorry, I'm sorry, yeah,
Okay,
Auditing service,
now I'm
fees.
following.
Appropriation.
okay.
Mhm.
So then, make sure I'm telling you the right story here.
Yes, please.
Let's see, tax collection, did I do that? Yes, I did, okay, and then go down to advertising,
Mhm.
and you go across there, and we have, oh, wait a minute, no, I'm sorry, go down to contracted services, just below advertising.
Got it.
I think what you see is $10,440. Do you see that number?
I see 12.5.
That's because I jumped it, I bounced it up by $2,000, $2,100, because we spent, about that much money, redoing our website.
I see.
So that's a contracted service as far as I was concerned, and that's why I added, these contracted services otherwise pays for like our UAN,
Right.
stuff and all kinds of other things.
Okay.
Anyway, and then just below that, under our property insurance,
Mhm.
I had to add $646 to our 6,000 was there because we needed that much more just to pay our property insurance for this year, okay?
Yeah.
All right, then you can move down, all the way down,
Take a breath.
everything is as, Chris had suggested, that was on that piece of paper, except you get down to contracted services in, no, take that back. Hold on just one second here. I added $100 to, oh, it's hard to see this.
Insurance and bonding?
Wait a minute,
That's cemetery.
no, let's see, what did I, wait, let me just make sure I'm not, okay, scratch that, just turn the page. Scratch that, yeah, and then in buildings, the buildings line item, that was suggested to go to 0, and I put 500 in there because we'd already spent some money.
That's a good idea.
And, you know, this building isn't gonna, well, who knows, right? So anyway, that's that. That's all the changes I made in the general fund. So I just wanted to let you know why. The other place, then if you wanna move to gas tax, that'd be page 3 on your appropriations page.
Okay, just to keep us
Mhm.
straight, your final appropriation's $140,775 in the general, and our final budget for that is $153,006. So we're within a good place.
Hold on, no, our final appropriations is 140.
Yeah,
Yeah, in general.
right.
Yeah, correct, yes. Okay, so then, down in the gas tax fund,
Mhm.
oh, hold on, okay, I gotta turn to page 2 since we're on that, okay. Just in, other insurance, down near the bottom,
Mhm.
I had to spend some money there, so. I spent $60.96, so I just put 70 in there, just for fun. Alright, that's the only change I made in, gas tax.
Okay.
Then we can move to, the cemetery fund, 2042.
Mhm.
I doubled our advertising dollar because of the postcards,
Okay.
okay? So from 1,000 it went to 2,000.
Well, okay. I
Well,
gotcha.
wait, cause look, we
I
spent.
forgot we didn't pay that till this year.
Right, yeah. We didn't get to pay it till, yeah, and so, all right, then, last but not least, go to fire, please. And, the biggest change I made was, in the, on the second page of the fire fund, the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund.
Mhm.
And, somehow I'd gotten up to 90,000 last year, and then, Colin suggested, these changes were based on him, he had suggested, just keep it at that, dollar amount, but then I did my own calculations again, and, I don't think we're gonna need that much money at all, and so
Good,
I
I didn't think we were going to either, but I wasn't gonna.
No, well, I don't, and honestly, it has to have been my bad somehow, I don't know what I did, but I was way over, appropriated last year.
Mhm.
And, so I did my calculations again on what basically, this line item reflects what the employer pays into OP&M, not the total,
Right.
employee and employer, and that might have been where I,
Yeah.
anyway, so 65,000 is what I suggested for now. It's a bit more than what I think we're gonna need, but just to be on the safe side, so that's what I changed, okay? And you had it at 50,000, I think, Chris, but I put it 65 in there,
Okay.
because that's my best guesses.
Okay.
And then the only other change I made, is, again, at the property insurance line item, we had 8,200 in there. We were keeping it at that, but I needed an extra 1,769, so it's at 9,969,
Mhm.
okay?
Right.
And, that is it.
Okay.
Except for, in the EMS, Colin suggested that, for operating supplies, he wanted to, he wanted to, you had said 56,000, he said 65, so I basically, it's because of they're buying their meds. The meds with that
Yeah.
line, item they weren't doing last year.
Yeah.
So that's a 65. Okay, so that's why it's where it's at. Okay? That's all the changes I made. I know I went over that kinda quick, and I'd be happy to review if anybody needs me to say it again slower. But I'm still right, no, just
I'll
kidding.
move. Adoption of this resolution to make the end of year appropriation.
And I will second it.
Any further discussion regarding that motion? Hearing none, may we vote please?
Mr. Crockett,
Yes.
Mr. Mutcher,
Yes.
Mr. Hollister.
Yes.
Okay, I will submit that to the county auditor.
Well, I budgeted a whole chunk of time for a lengthy discussion.
Well, if you want to.
Well, that's
Where-
We've
what
had a
What-
couple brief ones, I think, for the add up.
What do you wanna say?
Well, no, not for me, I thought there would be some questions from other board members.
Oh, yeah, well, if he wants to say anything, or ask me any questions.
We've got our, it's been moved and seconded.
Okay,
It's been my belief that you know what you're doing.
good job, Mark. That's why I vote for you.
Boy, that $20 was really coming in handy.
Oh, well, and then, and on the fun side of things, if you may have looked at your, revenue status report, you might see that, we, have received a chunk of, our first settlement of the property taxes.
Yeah.
So we got some, a nice chunk of change thrown into the bank.
And the inside millage accounts came in above the budgeted amount.
Yep. So, we're, that cash is gonna get transferred to an investment fund. A chunk of it, we don't need all that in our checking account. So that's it.
If you wanna draw this out, I could start making up things.
No, you
What do you
make
wanna do? You know what you're putting off on. What you said this beginning of the meeting? Never mind.
Well, we both got our haircuts this week, so we feel like we're very professional now.
You're right.
Ready to
You wanna work a little bit harder?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have anything else to report. Right?
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
There does appear to be a resolution 2019-10 adoption of.
Oh, then there's that, right, can we,
Yeah,
yeah,
We haven't voted yet.
I guess that motion was adopting the budget, but I guess now we need to do the appropriation, the resolution, right?
That's what I thought we were just doing.
That's what I was thinking we were doing. But we better do it, for the camera's sake, we should probably go ahead and adopt the resolution now.
Okay. I would
Resolution.
entertain a motion, did we vote on the last one though? I just wanna make sure.
Yeah, we did, I wrote unanimous on there.
Okay, so,
Yeah, we did.
I'd entertain a motion then for the adoption of resolution 2019-10, adoption of permanent appropriations for year 2019.
I will so move.
Mr. Hollister moves, is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Crockett seconds, is there any further discussion regarding that motion to approve the resolution? Hearing none, may we vote please?
Mr. Hollister,
Yes.
Mr. Crockett,
Yes.
Mr. Mutcher.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, there we go.
there we go.
All right, nothing zoning this period. I did change the website to reflect the zoning changes of last meeting. I removed the R2 and R3 sections and cleaned up the PUD for the industrial and business portions, so that's, if sometime you wanna give me your stick,
I will do that.
I can cut and paste those parts onto the website.
Okay, I don't have it with me, but I
But,
can
just
keep it on the desk tomorrow.
sometime.
Well, and those, the changes that have been made do need to be, submitted to the county recorder's office. And
Yep.
and I think we, yeah, just send a little check along with that, so, when you're ready to do that, let me know and I'll cut a check. I think it's $20. Anyway,
Okay. So, standing committee reports, I had something, last month in VRPC meetings, there were, elections of officers. Oh, I was officially elected second, vice chair. There's a new, or excuse me, first vice chair. There's a new second vice chair as the commissioner of Miami County. And the chair is John Beals, who he was the interim up until then. We adopted some bylaw changes to allow for participation from Warren County on the executive committee, because they hadn't had that pleasure previously. We adopted a resolution supporting Governor DeWine's increase of the Ohio motor vehicle fuel tax in his original request, because of course it's not completely done yet, and we don't know how it's gonna go through the Senate, and what changes might be made, either more or less, or who knows what, but we made the resolution the way it stood originally, and the rest of things were transportation, and that's all. And of course, we wanted to recognize the executive director's loss of his wife. Okay, so, next was the regional planning meeting for last month. It was very.
That is the Greene County Regional.
Green County Regional Planning. There's a policy that we had been working on to require, not require because we can't require anything, but to put in our policy that recommended townships to require a second access in political subdivisions, in subdivisions of more than 30 home sites. Up till now, developers were requesting variances on that, or putting in emergency accesses, and it was the decision of the board, for the recommendation, the full board, to ask those townships, citizen voters, to require a true second entrance and exit for a subdivision that large. So, and I think that was also where cul-de-sacs, that a lot of people were putting in long cul-de-sacs that were over the 700-foot maximum that we had as a policy, and then requesting a variance for that, and having an emergency access as being the reason that, it would be all right to have the longer cul-de-sac used. But we just thought that was not the best way to do that. So that was passed by the board, and then there was a lot of talk about the 2020 census preparation coming up, and the pre-planning session that happened, the report was given about the comprehensive plan for the county that's being revised and renovated and updated. The next meeting, next Tuesday, now there's an executive meeting tomorrow, but then the full board meeting will be next Tuesday, and there'll be a substantial discussion about the role of regional planning in the revised comprehensive plan. A timeline, financial, the cost, that sort of thing. We'll be having everybody's favorite visioning meetings throughout the county. Yellow Springs and Miami Township will have lots of charrettes, I'm sure. Just like the last vision thing. So that's what happened there. Mill's fine. I was in there the other day. Oh, I forgot to tell Colin, I installed the required CO2 detectors, or, no, not CO2, CO detectors on both floors. So we are now in compliance with the new fire code. I'll have to send him a memo on that, so he knows to check that out. Okay, so, the TAC meeting, did that happen last month? I can't remember.
Yes, I actually mentioned it last.
Oh, okay.
The main thing was reviewing the proposed user fee attached to gasoline purchase.
Mhm.
That's, so I'm echoing what you just referred to. We didn't take a position, we just urged members to communicate with their legislators. And I note that the legislature is not doing what the governor urged.
Mhm.
We're not going as far as the governor urged.
We did have a nice presentation by the new Ohio Department of Transportation Director, Jack Marchbanks, at our
At the
county meeting last
Right.
week.
How do you spell his name?
Marchbanks, Jack Marchbanks.
Marchbanks.
Yeah, he gave a lot of good information, I thought.
And then this coming month's, or this month's TAC has been, or rather the coming month has been canceled for lack of business.
Do you have, where are you in the Clifton Cemetery Board schedule of meetings?
What's our next?
Well, I actually, was just thinking to get the board together because of their, the requests or, last year, the Clifton Board did contribute to the Pontum annual maintenance fee. They did a third of that, Clifton Cemetery did. And this year, the fee has increased. And so, rather than automatically doing that, I felt that the cemetery board should at least be, consulted about that. I did get a phone call today from, one of the board members. She's currently in the hospital with pneumonia, so I was gonna try and set up a meeting with her, but I have had it on my mind to get, it seems to be on me to get these guys together, so. And definitely before spring planting takes all the time of, one of the board members, so.
Are we current with all the maintenance charges from last year?
We have not gotten an invoice yet for that.
You remember that? Okay, I'll do it.
Honey-do list. Yeah, we need to
Yes,
get
I
that.
usually do that early.
I know, I don't think we did that, cause we'd be fighting about it by now.
Man,
There would be some conversation about it by now, I should say.
Yes, there would.
Yes, I'm sure there would be, so,
we'll have
I
the
know.
ball there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
okay,
Thank you.
yeah, so that's Don's
To be-
report.
That's Don's report. Okay, thanks, thanks Don's, social secretary. Okay, so, Mark, anything going on in the senior center or the projects that you're working on? ESC work?
Yeah, let's see, on the senior, I received a nice thank you card on the senior, project for the apartment buildings, for speaking out in favor of in support of the project. And as far as the McKee group goes, I've got a call into Mr. Smith at the high school
Mm-hmm.
about the overall process, because I'm not really familiar with the step-by-step. I've got all of the guidelines, but I was at Friends Care. I was thinking about that. Last May, when it was approved.
Remind me, what was approved and what's David Smith's role and
Okay,
what's the McKee role?
The McKee Group does a scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. McKee, no, I'm sorry, Smith at the high school receives all of the information and disseminates it. And then the group decides who wins.
Well, strictly speaking, this isn't senior center though.
Yeah.
This is separate from,
Yeah.
So,
that's another
There's-
project.
there's not a tiny little bow that you're gonna wrap all this up into
No.
township business? Okay, I was waiting for that one.
No, as far as township business goes, I think it's an important, it's not a huge amount, it's $1,500 this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's an important award. I think that as far as the health and well-being of the village goes, that the township is closely tied to that. And the more we participate, the better it is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can't argue with that, that's for sure. Anything of the Economic Sustainability Committee work?
No, they held a meeting, and I've got a couple of phone calls in, but I haven't heard back.
You attended the meeting, or it was held?
No, it was held.
Uh-huh.
And I called Karen and left a message, and she hasn't called me back yet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right, thank you. All right. Any new business this evening? Any old business? Well, there is the CDIC formation group meeting that happened. Oh, it's YSCDIC. CD, it's not I, because it's a D, so there's gotta be.
You're talking about Community Improvement Corporation, calling itself Community Development Corporation.
Yeah, the Yellow Springs Community Development Corporation.
Remember, this is being videoed.
Yeah, I know, I'm trying to get it straight for the viewing audience. We had our second meeting last week. Determined to prioritize to work on a set of bylaws for the committee, because you need to have those in place in order to start applying for 501c3 status, which is obviously paramount to begin accepting money and loaning money, or property, or virtually anything else that a DCIC does. A DC does. Don't get it right yet. And so that work is ongoing. There is a set meeting schedule. It's the first Monday of every month at noon. 7:30. Organizational meetings anyway, not, I'm sure not whatever the regular meetings are. And another set, I'm trying to work out some progress on the bylaws along with Patty Bates and Lori Krieger of Village Council. And then we'll start working collaboratively on the 501c3 application. We need to find the most appropriate way to go about that, whether to try and do it ourselves or to get a facilitator for 501c3s because they can be cumbersome. I remember doing it for the Grinnell Mill Foundation, and it was above my pay grade, and so we hired an operation that professionally applied for 501c3s, and it was obviously successful because we were in business doing it. So that's yet to be done after we get some of these bylaws put together, and I will get them for you to review. And that's all.
Are you talking about the loan fund?
That will be part of it, the DCID, DC will be, at this point, they're supposed to be charged with the responsibility of overseeing that and making those loans and determining, taking contributions towards them and then distributing the money. But of course, right this minute, that's at the village level.
Right.
But that is one thing. And again, this is way early, but bringing it around to townships, in theory, instead of selling this building at a public auction or a sealed bid, we could sell it to the CDIC at a predetermined value that we wanted and an agreed value. And then we could put requirements as to how it's resold, what purpose it might be resold in the future. How stringent those requirements are, I have no idea at this point. That's so far down the road, but it does give us an option that we don't have to sell it at the highest bid for the Yellow Springs Strip Club or something that we don't feel is.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
See, there you go. Great minds think alike.
Oh, Lord.
There's the downside as much as, unless you can put in you could, I don't know, if you sell it for the highest bidder or an auction, you never know, you might get a lot of money, being a greedy person that I am. And so if we, sold it for $1 million and it was, might have come in at $1.5 million, then you didn't get that 500,000, and because you'd never know how much you didn't get because it wouldn't go to the auction because it would be transferred to the YSCDEC. So I don't know. Again, we're a ways off on that, as we all know.
But it will give us an option other than an auction,
Yes, it will.
and it could be structured in a way that we got a share of any future profit above the original price.
So that's something to look forward to. All right, anything else before the board this evening? No, I've got a couple little notes here. Let's see what I missed. I think it's all. Never miss it.
That's a good thing.
DCID, I did that. That's for something else, appropriations I did. Surprised they're not. Wanted to remind everybody that our new website is up and running and has a lot of good current information on it. I know we've mentioned it before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. It also makes it very easy, it's right on the front page, to do burial searches of all the township cemeteries for decedents, or people who are buried in them. So hope you'll take advantage of that feature.
I think it's a great new generation website.
It just goes MiamiTownship.net, is that how you do it?
MiamiTownship.net. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that plug.
Spell township all the way out or just?
Yeah, all one word,
All one
all spelled
word.
out.
You can see a picture of you on
It's all a picture of me on it.
We should have a
He
banner.
does that 10
One
times.
other item,
there.
camera
just
does
that
it,
tomorrow
10 times.
night, the county commission has a town hall meeting at Antioch
Yeah.
University Midwest. I believe it's 7 o'clock. Could be wrong.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and fortunately this will not air by then, but still in all, for us, it's
Yeah.
good to know. I have a DAC meeting tomorrow night, but, or else I would have gone.
Well, actually, it may be 6:30. I'll plan to, I'll check that out and send you, Mark, I'll send you an email in case you want to go.
Okay, yeah, I do.
All right, hearing nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Uh,
Thank you.
So, not tomorrow, but the next day